Welcome to Flipping Houses for Rookies, the only podcast that shows you how to take back your financial freedom and live the American dream by becoming a real estate investor. Without the banks, without the big wigs, and without the realtor's nonsense. This isn't about selling you coaching or some get-rich-quick scheme. It's about opening your eyes to the possibilities so you can make real chunks of dough, buy your life back, and become a free American. With over 400 episodes aired, we're delivering everything you need to know to find deals, talk to sellers, structure deals, and win big. It's time to take action, change your mindset, and claim what's yours. Real estate is the key to your freedom, and we're here to show you the way. Subscribe now and catch our latest episodes on YouTube at Flipping Houses for Rookies, because your financial freedom starts today. Now, here are your hosts, Bill and Pete.
All right, here we are at yet another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Bill, and hey, everybody.
Here we are, episode number 430. Here we go. Today's title of the episode is Creative Real Estate Real Deal Structuring Examples and How to Retire Early. Here's a description. Excuse me. How do you actually fire your boss? Or throw that current income activity you have now that you despise so much in the trash and start with a new clean slate so you can actually enjoy the life you deserve. Here is the truth. Most people failing in real estate are getting crushed because they think no money deals are wholesale deals, option assignments, even using private or hard money lenders for fix and flip. And no lie about it, all can make you money as long as you keep working. But what happens when or if you stop working? What if you were shown real deal examples that could get you a chunk of dough now, then some monthly cash to live with, and then a pile of retirement funds for when you stop working? How much would that change your life? Or more important, your family's life? Forget about that raise your boss might or might not give you. Delve into this unique and not taught to many strategy, and you will soon see the future you as a wealthy person living on your own terms. Are you ready to get started?
Ready.
Here we go.
Hey, Bill, how about this? Past ready.
Yeah, past ready. Yeah, I was ready last year.
Yeah.
All right, let's deal with housekeeping. So make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you like us. And if you leave us a 5-star review, I have today, Peter, I was going through all of my stuff. I've been kind of, I don't know what you would call it. Kind of just, I had some time off during Christmas, which isn't really time off. That just means that I was not in the public eye. In other words, I didn't have coaching groups. I didn't have creative REI replay stuff to do. I was left to my own devices. And I found, which we're going to talk about today, I have a deal structuring ebook that I made some time ago. So I'm going to give that away today. But here's the point. If you leave us a 5-star review and take a snapshot of it and send it to me at flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, I'll give you some amazing goodies. I mean, I've given away our scripts and calculators that we sell for $300-400. We were selling for $500 at one point over at Creative REI Reply. I've been giving away. The other thing I gave away was I have a course how to make your first $5,000. That was worth. I think I was selling that for $297 or something like that for a while, and sold a bunch of those. I'm giving that away, and now I'm going to be giving away today. I'm going to be giving away this book on deal structure. So all you have to do is leave a review, a 5-star review, wherever you're watching or listening to us, and then send me a snapshot of that over to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, and I will send you one or all three of those goodies if you so desire. So make sure you do that, but also make sure you subscribe to us, and even if you don't want all the goodies, you can still leave us a review. Okay? So with that said, Peter, are you ready?
Ready to go.
Ready, set, go. Okay, good. So I want to let our listeners know this is a sequel from podcast number 439, which is the one right before this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was called Creative Real Estate Financing Deals, Real Examples for Today's Economy.
Mm-hmm.
So today I'm going to cover real deals done with those listening so they can grasp how easy it is to retire early. A lot of people don't realize how easy it is to retire early.
Mm-hmm.
They have some other concepts of retiring early. When you have wisdom, and today we're going to give you wisdom, and not just information found lying around the internet as someone's funnel to eventually sell you something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much information on the internet, especially YouTube and Facebook. There's so much information flying around. And you and I have realized that a lot of people are overwhelmed with wisdom. Overwhelmed with information,
Yeah.
but are completely starving for wisdom.
Yep. Too much content.
Yeah. So that's important to realize. So we're here to give you some wisdom, and the definition of wisdom means that you have knowledge and experience put together, right? And that means that it's not just something you read a book about.
Right. You read something. This is, as an educational point, you read something. How do you know if it's true? How do you know how valuable it is? How do you know if it works? How do you know if you can do it? So the experience is when that's worked out. So right. You find somebody who has experience like you, and you listen because
you've got experience.
But then you try. Yeah, I have enough, but I want some more. But then you try it. You see for yourself that it works. But at least you're starting at a better point than just winging it,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a couple quick things before we dive into the math. One thing is that you have to test before you invest. Mm. And this is what we have found to be a skipped gradient. This is like you're on the bottom step and you're trying to go upstairs, and you skip like 5 steps and start in the middle of the staircase. Mm-hmm. First of all, if you can do that, good for you. Second of all, you're probably going to be physically hurt from trying to do that, and you're going to be at a disadvantage, right? So here's what I mean. Test before you invest. This means that if you're new to create real estate, or real estate in general, or going into a new area, right? Mm-hmm. Especially across your state line to do deals, because so many people want to do virtual deals, but they don't know how. And after coaching so many people, which is where my experience comes in. I mean, my own deals is one thing, but it's a whole nother level when you have to take what you think you know and teach others.
Absolutely.
So the first thing is capturing the important things and not all the minutia. Right? Like I might run my email different than somebody else would run their email.
Sure.
Or I might get leads in a different place than somebody else. But here's the point: is that because I have to articulate what I do and then make it simple so others can understand it. And not that I'm smart and I have to dumb it down. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about how can I make it so it's not just rolling around in my head and it's a 1,000-word dissertation on how to find leads, right? I got to make it easy. So I got to make it easy for me first. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah.
Which is funny. So anyways, my point is that I hear a lot of people or a lot of folks that want to go do deals virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear from them is, well, I'm so far away. How do I hire someone that can do that for me? Right?
That's right.
It says, let's do it. Cool. So I'm going to talk about that today, right? So you absolutely need to test first. And what I mean by test is the money comes from your buyer. Your buyer funds all of your deals. Your profit, whatever the seller's asking for, anything involved in this transaction is getting funded by the buyer's wallet. So you need to test the buyer's wallet. A, what are they willing to open their wallet up for? And B, how much are they willing to pull out?
Sure.
And there's a whole lot of other things that go along with that. But if you don't understand your buyer, you may not be able to understand how to purchase properties or talk to a seller.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This means you do all the things and deal examples that we did in 439. In other words, we're testing the market, right? And we're doing non-committal deals. So we're doing deals that we don't own. We're just controlling the deals, right? And we're just, in a nutshell, it just means we're using options or getting the right to sell, not the obligation to buy, which is an option, right? So mostly like our slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, which is sort of like you get a lease option from a seller and then you sort of wholesale it or assign it to a buyer and you give a seller $100 for the option and then you sell it for 5% of the market price, which is not usually less than 10 grand these days. It's as high as $40,000 or $50,000, right?
That's right.
And you're gonna make a big chunk of dough. Problem is that you do that monthly. If you stop marketing and you stop talking to sellers and buyers and you stop working, so does the money stop working.
Right.
So does that make sense? So that's testing. Testing, not investing. So once you get into an area, you can start understanding the seller because they'll tell you all of their objections and concerns. And then the idea is to do much like a realtor and get a property on consignment. See, that's what realtors do, right? They sign a listing agreement. They get the house on consignment. They put it on the MLS and they go find their buyer. And then the buyer makes the offer. The buyer does all the due diligence. The buyer does everything for you. All you are is a relay of communication. Now, the short side of this story is you need to keep working, and yeah, you're going to make, 5, 10, 20, 50 grand, whatever the number is. It shouldn't be less than 10 grand these days because the average house is 400,000. So, 5% of 400,000 is 20 grand, right?
It's 20,
so
yeah.
You're going to make money. But you're going to make money while you're doing your apprenticeship. You're going to make money while you're learning. You don't have to go spend a bunch of money for education. Now, coaching is always good because it'll show you the road to speed bumps, right? And you could do it faster if you have a mentor that's already driven the road and they can tell you what to do, what to look for. So coaching is good for fast people. But you could do it on your own. I mean, it might take you a year. It might take you 6 months. It might take you 30 days, right? The point is that these deals are what you test with. And I'm spending a lot of time on this because this is very important. Okay, Pete. So here's what we're going to start calling this. I have a new name for this process.
Oh, you do?
I do. I don't know what's going on lately, but I got a lot of stuff just popping out lately, like some really good ideas. I think they are, but maybe it's others. Anyways, here it is. Exposure therapy.
Whoa. Exposure therapy. Okay, explain exposure therapy.
So if you start doing deals,
Yeah.
slot deals and option deals that are not obligated deals, in other words, you don't have the deed in your name,
Yeah.
and you're just testing, not investing, it's exposure therapy. You're exposing yourself to the market,
Yeah.
and you're dealing with yourself and your concerns and your considerations, like, oh, nobody would ever do that. And then you get on the phone and you got 10 people telling you, yeah, I would do that. That's exposure therapy.
Right. That makes sense.
Because you're getting exposed to the seller, you're getting exposed to the market, right? You're getting exposed to the seller. The buyer, right?
Sure.
What does expose mean?
It actually means put something out. X means out. Pose means to put. So you're putting things out there. Because when you start, you're talking about if you're starting like a virtual. But when you're starting in your own territory, it might as well be virtual because you don't know what you're doing in the beginning. So at the very, very beginning, you need to do this because you're not sure. People tell you, oh, you shouldn't try that. So you have experience. You know what it is? Exposure gives you experience.
Right.
And then you stop
It
worrying.
gives you wisdom.
Yeah, which gives you, so the exposure, the experience, then the wisdom, and things that people tell you, including your wife or your husband, not to do this or that, or your best smart buddy friend, you find out for yourself.
Right. So here's a good definition, right?
Yeah?
To make something visible by uncovering.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
To reveal the truth, the objectionable nature of something.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to expose the deal and you're going to reveal the truth to yourself about how deals really work.
Mm-hmm. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah. And because you're non-committal, because you're using an option agreement, a $10 bill if you wanted to, right, to lock up the option agreement, it's called exposure therapy. I think that's a great way to put it, right?
That's
Which
good.
means by doing these non-committal deals, it breaks any preconceived, warped perceptions anyone might stack up from their own ideas of how things work without ever understanding what a buyer needs and wants. The buyer's paying for the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know how to make money, ask the guy that's going to pay you what's needed and wanted. Then you know how to make your offer to your seller, right? Which, by the way, is the only way to look at real estate these days. I can't believe we never looked at that for 3 decades. I didn't look at it, and it just seems to be more and more apparent. Okay,
Yeah.
So the next thing, I spent too much time on that. The next thing, once you do a few of these deals, these test type deals, and this was a big epiphany for me. Big epiphany. In fact, I hope you have a little bit of time because I want to talk to you about some of this stuff when we get done. Because I'm going to make some. Because of this, I feel like we should make significant changes on what we do.
Ah, really?
Yeah. So the next thing, once you do a few of these test type deals, right? Your prediction machine for your income will be more precise and doable because it's real now. You know what the seller's going to say, you know what the buyer's going to say, you know how to match make them, and you know how to extract that chunk of dough from the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're going to buy an option agreement from a seller for $100, and you're going to sell it for 5% of the market value, which on a $400,000 house would be $20,000. And everybody in the deal knows what's going on because you're passing the same document around and everybody's signing it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no secrets, right? Okay, that's all about testing. But now today, we're going to cover two types of strategies you should do. I can't read my own writing. So I'm just going to, because I know what it's supposed to say. So two types of strategies you should do so you're comfortable with this market, right?
Yeah.
So testing and not investing is like one tier.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you first go into a market and you're kind of curious about the market.
Sure.
Okay, now you've done a couple deals, slot deals or option deals, which we explain on the podcast, so go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're like, I think I want to invest in this property, in this area.
Yeah.
So the next level up is when you do the rent-to-own method. So now what you need to do is you need to test money now, money monthly, money later for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not ready to invest, right? You're still in testing mode, right? So, by the way, money now, money monthly, money later is the only real formula to retire early. If you want to retire early, that's how you do it. No matter if it's a real estate deal or stockbroker or even businesses, no matter what kind of money it is, you need to look at, if I exert my energy into this activity, will it give me money now, money monthly, money later? Guess what? I just gave you a new definition for Kiyosaki's definition of an asset. When you look at an asset, is it giving me money now, money monthly, money later? That's what an asset should do, is give you those three things.
Mm-hmm.
A liability will take away money now, cost you money monthly, and have no money later. Right? A liability is something that takes away, it has no money now, has no money monthly, it costs you money monthly, and it makes you broker at the end. Right? Like, for example, your house, paying a mortgage, right? I mean, it'll give you money later because of equity, but you understand what I'm saying.
Sure. It's a long ways away. And you don't want to retire on your own house necessarily. That wouldn't be the best thing.
That's not what you're supposed to do, right? So the true life secret is, how much capital do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I'm thinking about money now, money monthly, money later, and I'm thinking about how am I going to invest, even if you have no money, how can I invest $10?
Yeah.
Right? How can I invest, and how can I start building assets that will give me a luxury retirement, aka not working?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the true life secret is, how much capital do I need to do that? How much time do I need to do that weekly? How much risk is there? And of course, how fast can I how fast can I gather an asset like real estate or stocks or even a business that can spit off money now, money monthly, money later? Now, until I met you, I always shouted from the rooftops, what business or what thing could give you money now, money monthly, money later, and give you all of this freedom with not a lot of work or not a lot of capital? And your answer after a couple of years was, well, write a song.
or a book.
Or a book.
Books,
not really, but
it depends on the book. But yeah, I mean, there's things that you can do. Be a movie star. Sure, just go down to Hollywood and sign up, right?
See, that's why I always preach about real estate, is because other assets can't do this, right? Or be hands off. or gain and control as fast as real estate. And those are the deals we're going to talk about today.
Yep.
Right? So just kind of get this concept. So you're going to test and invest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go in and do slot deals and option deals, right? And we're going to call that exposure therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start doing that and you get comfortable, now you're going to start doing rent-to-owns, where you're going to stay in the deal for a period of time, 3 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever you're going to do. And you're going to see how the money now, money monthly, money later works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So once you feel comfortable, which, by the way, a rent-to-own has specific data for me, right? Which is the seller gives you a lease option, much like the sandwich lease option transaction.
Mm-hmm.
But on a slot deal, there's no equity. You make your own equity.
Right.
Right? Ron LeGrand says the day you buy a property, there should be equity.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, of course, you're doing a slot deal, you got to know how to make equity.
Right.
Right? But in this case, we're going to get 15% worth of equity. And we're going to have 20% worth of cash flow. But we're not going to own the property. It's going to be still in our seller's name. All we're doing is controlling the property, just like Nelson Rockefeller said. Own nothing, control everything is the secret to wealth and keeping it. Right? So we're going to do a couple of these deals to see how much cash flow, more importantly, how much maintenance it needs, because we're going to pawn that off onto our buyer. They're going to do all the landlording for us, and it's going to be a good way to get started. So it's exposure therapy to what if I stopped taking these deals on a rent to own and somebody else is getting all the benefits because the deed's in their name, and they're getting all the tax write-offs and all the benefits on the back end, which is more money than the front end anyways. And I started doing these deals on my own. So we went through a gradient scale. We started off with the non-committal deals, and then we went into a rent-to-own next.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're ready to, okay, I have 10 grand or 20 grand, because you've made money with these other deals, right?
Yeah.
You have money now. So you might have 10 or 20 or 30 or $50,000, and you're like, okay, now I'm ready to invest that money and make even more.
Mm-hmm.
You see how it goes, right?
Right. There's a big difference when, if you own a deed, you're on the hook. You know, anything happens, you're it. Your name is there. But if it's not there, you can always goodbye. It's like when you rent a house or something. Like, if something doesn't work, you go.
The seller might be pissed off at you, but if you did a good job, you'll leave them with the tenants, or something we never ever talk about, Peter.
What?
Which I am going to talk about with you later, because I can't believe that this even happened to me the last couple of days. I can't believe what came into my head.
Really?
I just can't believe it. Yeah, It's completely different than what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to write a book. I'm so excited about it, as long as you approve of it. So the point is this. Lost my train of thought. Oh my God. I was so busy boasting myself, I lost my train of thought. What we never talk about is, suppose you get into a lease option deal, right? And you have this deal, and you got the seller over here, you got the buyer over there, you're in the middle, you got 15% worth of equity, and you're making 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. And you're like, I got a new job, I got my grandkids, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to do this. Or you only did one, and it's a nuisance for you.
Hmm.
At any given time, day 1 or day 100 or day 1,000, you just wholesale that to another investor, and you get money from that investor, and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You can get out of the deal anytime you want. When you're doing that with a deed in your name, it's not so easy. But when you're doing rent to own and it's just an option, you just wholesale the deal to another seller. So another investor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just do this. Let's just talk real deal.
Sure. Let's do a good example.
And then, just remind me towards the end of the deal to come back to this, because I will forget. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, because now you already have a buyer that has an option to purchase the property, so you're in the middle as an investor. So there's another kind of, it's not like you're getting the option to buy the property, but you have the opportunity to be the guy in the middle. So yeah, give us a real example of how that would go.
Okay, so remind me of that when I get all done, because I want to make sure I explain what you just said, because that's very important what you just said. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a house, and I picked a $200,000 house. I know the average price of a house in America right now is like $419,000, but there are still areas like we're in Pittsburgh, and there's not there's some 400,000 up, but a lot of them are 150, 200,000. So I want to stay real for most folks. Okay.
Multiply by 2, it'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Just multiply the numbers by 2.
The after renovated value, which is really the comp of the house, unless you're doing a renovation and you can actually get more because the renovation will allow you to get more, which is possible but not so easy, right? So let's say the house is worth $200,000, and their loan is $171,000.
Okay.
In this case, they're asking $171,000, or they're asking $200,000. And you negotiated it to $171,000 because it's a 15% discount. So 15% of $200,000 is $30,000.
Yep.
Right. So it's $15,000 per 100, and we have 2 of them, so that's $30,000, right? So you get the option under agreements for $170,000 or $171,000. I put $171,000. Right? The monthly payments are $1,410. That's loaded up. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, what we call PITI, right?
Yep.
It doesn't need repairs. The seller's ready to walk away from the house because it's too much trouble for them. You find out there's a 15% worth of equity, and the seller's flexible with terms. Now, here's the thing. Is this possible today? In today's market? Well, yeah, because here's what's happening is the too-laters that came too late still think that they can get COVID money, that they can get 15% over market value. So I'm going to tell you where to find these people, right? You're going to find these people under expired listings because they gave it to a realtor and the realtor couldn't perform. So if they were to sell it with a realtor, it's more than likely they have a 15% closing cost anyways, right? They're going to have 5 to 6% for the realtor. They're going to have 3% negotiating cost. They're going to have 3% on repairs. And if the house doesn't need repairs, they're going to need it to be able to bribe the buyer with, because the inspector came in and spooked them. And then you need 3% for actual closing costs. That's 15%.
Yep.
This is any transaction. It's hard to do a deal for less than 10%. So if the seller really understands their true closing cost, this 15% is what they were going to pay when they sold with the realtor anyways. So you're not taking anything away from them. You're just reassigning that money for you to do the work. See, if they did it with the realtor, then all the professionals get paid. Here, we're the professional. We're getting paid.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. So it's just a matter of who's doing the work. So we do the work, so we get paid.
Right. Exactly.
It's not complicated.
So now watch this. Watch this. So like I said, the situation is the seller's ready to walk away. They're tired of this house. By the way, you can find these type of leads. This is what we call, Peter, an accidental landlord. So you would find these, the best place to find them, which you can't really automate it because Facebook doesn't allow you to do it, but Facebook Marketplace is the best place to find these people. You can find them on Zillow too. You go on Zillow and just put in for rent, right?
Yeah.
And just find them that way, right? Those are the 2 best places. Now you could easily do this today. All you need to do is go on Facebook Marketplace. On the left side, go under for rent. Do not look at the houses at all, right? Just put a private message to them that says, would you be willing to rent for a year or two and then sell to me? And the people that respond, you talk to them about this strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If you did that 25 times a day, in other words, you typed it once, copied and pasted on 25 houses, within a week, no more than 2, you will have people talking to you about this transaction. Okay?
Sure.
So we got it for 171, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, what's that?
I told you the payment was $1,410 PITI. It's not. It's $1,080 PITI.
Okay.
Yeah. So the monthly payment is $1,080.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna sign this deal up with an option agreement and a lease agreement for no less than 7 years.
Mm.
Okay. And I told you to remind me to tell you something later. I'm going to do it now.
Okay.
So the reason why we do 7 years is because you're going to do 2-year leases with your buyer,
Mm-hmm.
and 1 out of 3 will cash you out.
Mm.
In other words, they'll buy you out. They'll buy the house. So you want 2 years, 2 years, and 2 years is 6.
Yep.
The other year is for in between. So when you're getting somebody out and putting somebody in, if it takes you a month or 2 or whatever, then you can do that. Now, when I talk about this deal in a minute and blow your head off with the numbers, realize it's with one buyer. If you did it with 2 buyers or 3 buyers, it just doubles and triples the numbers. Okay?
Makes sense. Sure.
Now, here's the point that I keep saying I wanted to talk about because I'll forget it, which I obviously didn't because I'm going to tell you now, is with a slot deal, a sandwich lease option, you have an option agreement. You buy that option agreement for $100. You sell it to your buyer for, we'll say, $5,000. It's the same option agreement. You're just assigning it from your seller via you to them.
Mm-hmm.
So the option agreement is between me and the seller, and then I just assign it to my buyer. Then I write a lease between the buyer and seller. I'm not on the lease. That's
Right.
a slot deal.
Right.
And this particular deal, because you have a difference in numbers, you're going to sign a lease with an option agreement from your seller to you. So you are the lessor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to sign the agreement between you and the seller. One set of documents, one set of lease option agreements.
Mm-hmm.
When you find your buyer, it's going to be a second, a second set of lease option agreement. So in this particular case, your lease option agreement from your seller to you is going to say $171 for a price and $1,080 a month for a payment.
Right. That's your deal with the seller. That's the agreement.
That's the seller.
He said yes to that. Good.
Now, when you go find your buyer's document's going to say $205,000, not $171.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to say $1,800 a month. And I'm going to tell you how I got that number in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So between you and seller, you're getting a option agreement for $171 and $1,080 a month. Between you and buyer, it's $205 and $1,800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Between you and seller, it's for 7 years. Between you and buyer, it's for 2 years.
Mm.
Is that clear?
Yes.
It's very important because I get that question a lot.
Well, this is a business, so you're not breaking even. You're getting a good deal from the seller. It's good for him. He's fine.
Okay.
And then what you're doing with the buyer, it's good for him too, because he's not buying a house if he doesn't do this deal.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to buzz through the rest of this deal with the numbers
Mm-hmm.
because I have one more deal I want to go over if we do a subject to deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did I find the 1,800? Well, there's this miraculous way to make money right now that's a blurb in time. I don't think it's happened for 100 years, maybe 50 years, but it's not happened in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This person that has this $171,000 price, which is probably what they owe,
Mm-hmm.
that $1,080 is probably at 3% interest, maybe 4% interest.
That's right.
Now, I have a couple of coaching groups I'm in, and they kind of don't use this as gospel like I do. And they're wrong about that, because people want to go to Rentometer and say, but the rent is only $1,100, Bill. Yeah, well, I'm not renting. I'm selling you a house. So what I did is I went on to mortgagecalculator.org. You can just put any mortgage calculator in there. I went to .net, mortgagecalculator.net, okay? And I put into it the home value, which is $200,000. I don't deduct I put in $200,000 because I took $5,000 off for the deposit, which I don't normally do. But I put $200,000 in here. I put taxes in at $2,700 a year, and I put insurance in as $2,400, which is about $200 a month. Right now, these are different since the Biden administration has been in, because my insurance has almost tripled. It's a little over 2 times, and taxes have gone up on all my properties. My portfolio is a little bit of a mess right now because I'm not going up on my clients, but I'm getting whacked by these other things, right?
Yeah.
So here's what happens when you do that at 6.5%. 6.5% interest. So $200,000, 6.5% interest, $2,700 for insurance, $2,400 for home insurance. $27 for taxes and $24 for insurance. The payment came out to be $1,772.47 a month. So that means if the buyer were to go get a mortgage tomorrow at 6.5% interest, he's going to pay $1,772.47 a month.
Yep.
That's how I came up with the $1,800. You don't want to use Rentometer, because if you use Rentometer and use a lower number, let's say $1,500, that means at the end of 2 years, the buyer's monthly payment's going to go up $300. And it's going to stop them from wanting to go get a mortgage, because it's going to go up and they're not ready. They're never ready. This is like, are you ready to have children? No. The only thing that made me ready to have children was my wife telling me we're having children or else. That's what made me ready. I was not ready to have children. And now they're 33, 30, and 28, and I'm so glad that she took me into it. But the point is this. You're never ready to go pay more money. So the best thing to do is to be higher with the monthly payment, and then when they go get the mortgage, they get rewarded by the price going down monthly. That's how I got the $1,800. Okay, so am I clear on that?
Makes complete sense.
Okay, so let's do the results of this deal. So money now was $10,000 because we got 5% for down payment. A non-refundable option consideration deposit. In other words, the $10,000 holds the buyer's position where they have the right to buy but not the obligation. If they do buy, that $10,000 changes names. Don't need more money. It's the same $10,000. Changes on name when the person executes their option agreement. In other words, they say, I'm ready to buy. You then take away the option agreement and you make a purchase and sales agreement. And you start going to a closing. That $10,000 is then called earnest deposit money. It's the same money. It's just on different forms with different names.
Yeah, well, they paid it, so they should get the credit for it.
Right. So
as long as they're buying.
That's right. 2 years from now, you don't need more money for the bank or down payment, none of that. It's already been done. Okay, you don't need to do anything. You're just going to change the name of it. So money now is $10,000. Money monthly is $720, which is $1,800 minus $1,080 that you're paying. So you got $720 a month positive cash flow. And then money later is $24,000. If you take the 205 minus the 171 minus the $10,000 they already gave you, leaves you with $24,000. Okay, which, by the way, the only money I got in this deal so far is $100. Okay,
that's right.
So on a 3-year lease, I should have done 2-year, but on a 3-year lease, it's $59,920. On a 5-year lease, it's $72,200. On a 10-year lease, because some people will do that,
Mm-hmm.
it's $120,400. Okay, so let me see here. 720 times 12 plus the 10 grand plus 24,000. That's $42,000 your first year. So if you did that times 2,
Well, you don't want to count the 24,000 twice, though, right?
that's right. So that's right. So 720 times 24. 720 times 24 equals plus 10,000 plus 24,000. That means on a 2-year lease you made $51,000.
You know what's crazy about that? That's what people don't always even make on a renovation with all the aggravation.
Now here's the thing. That's right. We're going to talk about that at some future point here.
That was I just did. Done.
Here's the thing. You don't have a deed in your name. You're not responsible. At any given point, if you don't want this deal, you just wholesale it to somebody else or give it back to the seller and you're done.
Yeah.
There is now people might be a little bit upset with you and you might hear some words you're not pleasantly ready to confront, right? But you can walk away and nobody can sue you, nobody can take your money back, nobody can do anything. You just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
You break the lease. The lease does not have language in it that says you have to pay the lease till the end of the lease. It doesn't have that language. Commercial leases have that, but we don't have that. Right? You just walk away. So, as I ranted and yelled and screamed, which I won't do this week, what's in your life that's stopping you from making this phone call or finding this deal to make $51,280 over the course of 2 years? What's stopping you from getting 10 grand now and $720 a month? I mean, you tell me you're not good on the phones, you're not a salesman, you tell me I don't want to, you got phone phobia. Well, you know what? $720 a month and $10,000 now might be able to fix that. That might be good therapy for you. Right?
Oh,
There's nothing in your life that's as important as this. This is how you are going to retire early. Imagine having 10 of these giving you $720 a month. Right?
Crazy.
Suppose you did 2 a year like this. Now, that's not very hard. 2 a year, and 5 years from now, you'll have 10 of them. 5 years from now, you'll be retired.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, yeah, by the way. Oh, never mind. 10 years from now, you'll have $24,000 times 10. That's $2.4 million. All right. So that's still testing, right? That's exposure therapy. We're still testing. We don't own the house. But now you start making some of this money, these 10 grands, down money. And you did 2 or 3 of them. All of a sudden, and you're still working. Right? All of a sudden, you got 20, 30 grand, and you're like, what do I do with this money? Right? So now you do a subject to deal. Subject to deal, let me see here. So we're at 0. So we're at stage 1 is test, don't invest. We're doing slot deals and lease options. I'm sorry, slot deals and an option deal.
Right.
We're testing the market, testing the buyers. Then we go down to stage 2, and that's doing rent to own. Now you're testing money now, money monthly, money later. Now you're going to go into stage 3, which is now subject to, and it's a little bit more stringent and a little bit more experience, because as you go through these levels, you get better and better, and now you're ready to start making more money, right? So the more money is a subject to deal, right? So in other words, a subject to deal means that there's no more testing. You're now investing, right? And you're going to get a deed here, which means that you are going to, the seller's going to give you a deed, and the mortgage is going to stay in their name. And before you cringe and say, who would ever do that? I have done dozens and dozens and dozens of these deals, right? Some of these deals need capital, right? They might need to catch up payments. They might need a little bit of repair. They might need some seller financing, right? These deals can be done very easily, right? So let's talk about that right now.
Okay.
So, by the way, here's how you find a subject to deal. You go through whatever, chit chat on the script, and at any given point, you say to the seller, "Would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it?" And when they say no, you say, "How much did you want to get?" And you negotiate that number, not the price of the house. The way you explain subject to a seller is, listen, the way this deal works is we're going to put the deed into a property trust, and we are going to manage the property trust, and we're going to pay your mortgage from the trust. And that's how you explain subject to. You don't get into the weeds on it. You don't give them a seminar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So same house. It's worth $200,000. They're asking $160, but they owe $150. Okay. So you're going to give them the $160. And you're going to promise to pay $1,210 for your PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Right.
Monthly.
Right.
Right. But there's a difference between the there's a difference of $10,000 between the $160 and $150. So I'm going to tell you what I did forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, but I don't do it very much anymore. So if for some reason, in this deal you can't do it, but if for some reason they want the 10 grand now, what I would do for cash, they're not willing to do the deal unless they get the 10 grand now, then I would double the 10 grand and subtract the 20 grand off of the price of the house. In this particular case, they owe 150, so I'm not going to really be able to do that.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would at least get some sort of a discount. Right? Now I could do that either with them making payments for me for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
You make payments for the next 3 months, and I'll give you the 10 grand, but you got to make payments for the next 3 months. It might be you okay, I'll give you the 10 grand, but you got to fix this.
Right.
Okay, there are other ways around it, which I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to do a subject to event on January 11th, 2025. If you're on my email list, you'll know that. If it's past January 11th, 2025, then you have to send me a support ticket, and the price will be much higher than what we started, but you can still get that event. Okay. So we're buying for $160, $1,210 a month. We're selling for $210. Okay, so Peter, I'm totally relying on you if I'm going too fast or if this is confusing, because these are a lot of numbers. I do great with math, so.
Well, I follow because I know how this works.
Okay.
So, if anybody's having trouble, you should have a piece of paper and pencil. Write this stuff down. Don't just listen.
So, it's worth $200. We're selling for $210, which we can do because they're not paying all cash and they're making payments, right? Again, they're going to give us a $10,000 non-refundable deposit. Oh, by the way, we always sell a house on a lease with an option to buy.
Yeah.
So even though we're buying subject to, even though we own the house, even though the deed's in our name, we're selling on a lease with an option to purchase. Okay? Because that's the most amount of money to get out of a house. So they're going to pay us, the option's going to say $210 to the buyer, and it's going to say they're giving us a non-refundable deposit, and they're giving us $1,800 a month, which I just told you how I got the $1,800 a month, because it's a mortgage, not a rent.
Yeah.
Okay? So that means your money now is $10,000. Your money monthly is $590, which is the difference between our $1,210 and the $1,800. Okay? And our money later is $40 grand. So that means in 3 years, now there's no deadline on this. With the lease with an option, which is why I don't try to do those anymore, because when you're doing a rent to own, which is 15% with equity, right, and 20 or 25% with a cash flow, you're writing an option agreement for at least 7 years. There's a deadline that you got to pay it off, so you're under the gun. When you do subject to, the deadline is when you pay off the mortgage. So if it's got 22 years left on a mortgage, then there you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't know the seller or anything else. You've handled that up front. He's not getting anything else, so there's no big deal. If it takes longer, there's nothing to get.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about the $10,000 that they're going to get, but we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, but that's a fixed number, so it's already plugged in.
Okay, so 3 years, if you get $10,000 now, $590 a month, and $40,000 later, in 3 years you made $61,240. 5 years you made $75,400. 10 years you made $110,800.
Mm-hmm.
Now wait a minute, I'm lying to you.
Yeah, you're holding out on us, Bill, because that's not all you get. Come on.
Because you have the deed in your name.
Uh-huh.
Unlike the rent to own, you're going to get 3% appreciation, which, by the way, we put that in the option agreement with our buyer. We put in there that the property value goes up 0.25% per month, which, by the way, that will go away. But for now, we're getting away with it because we have an appreciating market. If we have a depreciating market, we're not going to be able to do that.
Mm.
But because we have an appreciating market, we can do that. So you're going to put in the option agreement with the lease option to your buyer, 3% appreciation, which is 0.25% per month. So that means the price of the house is going to go up 3% that they owe you. Plus, when your buyer pays you, they're paying for the usage of the house. They're paying rent. There is no money to reduce the principal payment. If they want to do that, we put them on a down payment assistance program, which is a whole nother conversation. But when they pay you, they're paying you quote unquote rent. In other words, their payment is paying, even though they own the house and it's considered a mortgage payment, it's still, they're getting the usage, no principal reduction. So that means every time they pay $1,800, you're paying $1,210 to the bank and you're getting principal reduction.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're paying down your mortgage, and every month you're getting more equity, so the house is worth more and more money, right? I just did this on a property that I did, and I think it brought me, on a 3-year period, it brought me $21,000 on principal reduction. That's $21,000 more money in the deal when they cash me out. Plus, we're going to get tax depreciation. Because you don't live in the property, the government says that you can write off this property depreciation over the course of 27 years, which I think works out to be 3.64% a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so probably over the course of a 3-year period, if you're on a 30 to 40% tax rate, you're probably going to get somewhere like, I don't know, in a 3-year period, $6,000 to $8,000 write-off that you don't have to pay on your government taxes.
Mm-hmm. So besides making money, you're saving money. Either way, it's money.
Well, here's the thing. Suppose you had 10 of these.
Mm.
Now all of a sudden you don't have $6,000 or $7,000. Let's say it's $6,000 a year. Now you got $60,000 a year to take off of your income. If you had 10 of them, do you see what I'm saying? If you're making $6,000, well, it's $6,000 over the course of 3 years.
So maybe $2,000.
So let's say it's $2,000 or $2,500, right? So still, you got $20,000 or $25,000 you can take off of your income, and you don't have to pay taxes on.
That could be zero taxes.
Yeah, for some people.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Right. So I didn't even put those numbers in here.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm telling you is if you take over a subject to deal, which means you put the deed into a property trust, and the property trust pays the seller's mortgage. And by the way, it looks like the seller is doing financial planning, retirement funds, and it looks like they're getting ready to retire. The bank does not trigger the due on sale clause because you can actually close with an attorney It's not like it used to be. Excuse me. You can actually close with an equity, an escrow company,
Mm-hmm.
because you're taking it out of the person's name and putting it into a trust, right?
Sure.
And it looks like they're just doing estate plan.
No, I've done it with your properties. I call the bank and I tell them what's going on. They say, send me these documents. I send the documents. They say, thank you very much. Who's going to send the check? I tell them who's going to send the check. They go, okay, send the check. Thank you. What do they want? They want the money. They don't care. They don't ask questions. They go, it's a secretary sitting at a desk. She goes, fine. So it's not a thing.
All right, so let's back up to the 10 grand that the seller wants.
Yeah, we want to do it that.
So there's a couple things we could do. Obviously, we can negotiate it if we're going to give them cash.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, you can say to them, okay, well, how about if I give you $5,000 now and then you pay the next 3 months with a mortgage, which works for some people. I mean, it's if they're clever enough, they'll realize the math on it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In this particular case, you got 1210 times 3. That means they're going to pay 3,600. You're going to give them 5 grand, so they're going to get 1,400 positive cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And usually when they're asking for money down, it's not because of the money. It's because they want to know you have skin in the game. Some people are like that.
Yeah.
The other thing you could do is you could do the $10,000 you could put in a second position note, which is not hard to write,
Mm-hmm.
for 10 grand. You could do one of two things with this note. You can either make the note for no interest, no payments. They get paid when your buyer pays you.
Mm-hmm.
So if your buyer cashes you out in 3 years, they get a chunk of dough. They get 10 grand all at once.
Yep.
Okay. Or because you have cash flow, you got $590 a month positive cash flow. You could say, well, listen, I'll pay you $200. I'll give you a note and I'll pay you $200 interest-free money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that means if you got $10,000, right, divided by 60 months, that'd be $166 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or if you did 10,000, which I think divided by 200 would be 50 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you could give $200 a month, and in 4 years it would be paid off.
Yep.
Right? Or you could give the whole $590 a month, right? So if you don't need cash flow and you're just looking to build a retirement fund, divided by 590 would be 16 months. So in a year and a half, it would be paid off, and all that money would be yours.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can write one of two notes. One is $10,000, no interest, no payments, and when my buyer pays me off, I give you the 10 grand. That's if you have no cash flow in the deal. If you have cash flow in the deal, you should pay down the note. So you're going to write a $10,000 note for whatever number you decide. Let's say it's $200 a month, or 166, which is 10 grand divided by 5 years is $166 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of 5 years, it would be paid off. That note is going to be principal only payments. In other words, no interest. And you're going to just pay it off over the course of 5 years.
Yep.
Right? Those are the two ways you're going to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if the seller wants all cash now, there is what I call a penalty. It's like a prepayment penalty.
Yeah.
On a mortgage. That's what you're doing with this. If they want the money now, you got to charge them a prepayment penalty.
Yeah.
Right. Because you want to give them a note.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I hope that wasn't too much. That was a lot of information. But this is deal structure.
Mm-hmm.
I have sat in a room for 3 days with you, Peter, and Emma, my daughter, and we were up in Glastonbury one time. We did a deal-a-thon,
Mm-hmm.
and I had all my coaching clients in the room, and they were calling their sellers and getting deals, and we were sitting in a room, and maybe it wasn't 3 days, maybe it was 3 hours. No, it was a couple days. And this is all we did was deal structure.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing exactly what we're talking about. Because there's so many facets to it, right? It's pretty cool. But here's my point, which I will never end saying until I can until my body stops allowing me to talk. What's in your life that's stopping you from making a phone call and finding this deal? I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. I don't care who you are, $590 a month cash flow. Pay something. Your car payment, your electric bill. Hell, put the $590 a month in the bank. And at the end of the year, let me see here, 590,000 times 12 is $7,000. You can go on a pretty damn nice vacation at the end of the year for $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Take your family somewhere for Christmas for $590 a month. Just put the money away. What is stopping you from getting on the phones? What is stopping you from doing this? Because honestly, you need to test before you invest, right? And you need to talk to people. So when you're talking to somebody at stage 1 and you're talking about paying them market value, just like a realtor would, getting an option for 90 days to go find a buyer, it doesn't cost you anything to do that, just like a realtor would. How hard is that? There's no negotiating, there's no anything there, right? Or just get an option agreement for a 5% discount. That's what a realtor would do, and go sell it for cash. Then you move down to stage 2, and stage 2 is where you do rent to owns. And you get a 15% discount and a 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. Then you move down to subject 2, and now you're going to want to get a 20% discount because you don't want to be more than 80% loan to value ratio for market swings. And now you're going to get the house for what they owe on it. Now, I'm telling you this because as you go through the stages, you start with the tiny deals and you start getting better and better deals. Guess what happens? You're talking to more and more people, and your therapy is working. Right? Does that make sense?
Well, what's funny about it is you can talk money, deals, structuring, the math all day long. But that's not the problem. The problem is what's in our heads, like the worries and what ifs. So you just want to calm yourself down by the experience to go, no, it'll be okay because I did this and that, and it should be fine. And you don't get the deed in your name till you think you know what you're doing.
Do it on a gradient. So your exposure therapy is just talking to people. Then you go down to stage 2, and then you start. Now your exposure therapy is, I could talk to sellers now. I could talk to buyers now. I'm used to that. Okay, the next level is, now I need to do some negotiating. I need to get 15% worth of cash flow and 20 or 25% worth of cash. I'm sorry, 15% worth of equity and 20. So now your exposure therapy becomes, I got to negotiate.
Yeah.
Then you move down to subject 2, and it gets a little bit stronger because now you got to get the deed in your name and the mortgage has to stay in their name and a 20% discount.
Mm-hmm.
So your exposure therapy allows you. So why have a subject 2 deal, your first deal? Because you're jumping the gun. See, your exposure therapy increases as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you should start and run your creative real estate business. Right?
Makes sense.
Okay, cool. So hopefully the numbers are not too hard for you. But if they were, and you're driving or exercising and you're doing whatever and you're just listening to the numbers and you are a two-dimensional person, meaning that you need to see them to learn because you're a visual learner, then you can leave me a 5-star review, or leave us, meaning Peter and I, a 5-star review wherever you're watching us or listening to us. You can take a picture of that 5-star review. I don't care if you do it on your phone. I don't care. There's so many softwares out there that you can take a screenshot, or your computer can do it for you. Take a screenshot of the 5-star review and send it to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, and I will send you a book. It's a PowerPoint presentation on a PDF document that has these deal structures in them. It shows you the numbers I just went over, and it shows you if you visual. So if you want to, they might be a little bit different, but they're similar. And you could then get the book and then listen to this podcast again, and you would probably understand more if you need that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you leave us a 5-star review, and then send that picture to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, and I will gladly send you the materials. Okay? So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your support, and thank you for wanting to be in the creative real estate industry and helping us get more exposure out there. So there you go. We're over and out. Talk to you on episode number 431, and flourish and prosper in the meantime.
This has been Flipping Houses for Rookies. The American Dream. What is it? It's called financial freedom, and with real estate, you'll have it. Without the banks, without the bigwigs, and without the realtors' nonsense. Bill and Pete are two real estate investors with 30 years plus of experience, hundreds of deals under their belts, and a mission to change the way you think about creative real estate. Do be sure to like, rate, and review the show. And after that, hit up our YouTube channel at Flipping Houses for Rookies /streams. We'll be back soon, and see you then on Flipping Houses for Rookies.